married a religious man, ended up with a lustful loser. Posted in r/survivinginfidelity. Title, married a religious man, ended up with a lustful loser. I remember the first time I saw Mark. He was helping an elderly woman carry her groceries outside the church, his smile seeming so genuine, so kind. He spoke softly, his sentences often sprinkled with references to faith, to doing the right thing, to building a life based on solid, shared values which sounded like music to my ears after years of dating guys who couldn't commit to dinner plans, let alone a future. He'd talk about his volunteer work, about how important community was, how finding a partner who shared his devotion was his deepest wish. Our dates felt wholesome, like something out of an old movie. Picnics in the park where he'd say grace over lukewarm sandwiches, evenings spent discussing scripture, or listening to him talk about his plans for a stable, God-fearing family. He held my hand gently, looked me in the eye when he spoke about forever, and I believed him. I soaked it all up like dry ground drinks rain. He met my parents and charmed them instantly, quoting Bible verses back to my dad and complimenting my mom's cooking with a reverence that seemed almost holy. He wasn't pushy about physical stuff before marriage, framing it as respecting me, respecting our future bond, respecting God's plan, and I admired that restraint, thinking it spoke volumes about his character. When he proposed, kneeling on one knee after a Sunday service, right there on the church steps, it felt preordained. Perfect. The wedding planning was all about tradition, the ceremony long and solemn, filled with prayers and promises before God, vows I took with absolute sincerity, believing I was marrying a man whose moral compass pointed true north. There were tiny things, maybe, moments I brushed off. The way his eyes lingered a bit too long on the waitress that one time, quickly masked with a pious comment about praying for her soul, or the vague answers about where extra money went, usually explained away as anonymous donations or helping a brother in need. I believed him because I wanted to, because the alternative didn't fit the beautiful picture he painted. Then we were married, and the paint started to peel almost immediately, revealing something ugly underneath. Church attendance, once the cornerstone of his week, became negotiable, then optional, then rare. His excuses were always plausible at first. Working late on a project for a church elder, feeling unwell, needing a Sabbath rest at home, usually involving the television or his phone. The Bible he kept on his nightstand began gathering a noticeable layer of dust, unopened for weeks, then months. His prayers at meals became rushed mumblings, if they happened at all. His phone, previously left casually on the counter, suddenly became glued to his hand, angled away from me, messages quickly swiped away if I entered the room unexpectedly. He started working late more often, coming home smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine or stale cigarette smoke when he claimed he'd quit months ago for his health. Money started getting tight, really tight, much tighter than his talk of stable jobs and responsible planning had ever suggested. Bills would appear, marked overdue, tucked under magazines or stuffed in drawers. He lost one job, blaming his boss's ungodly attitude, then another, citing unfair workloads that interfered with his spiritual well-being. I saw laziness where he claimed persecution. I saw him scrolling endlessly through websites I couldn't quite glimpse, his face illuminated by the screen late into the night after I thought he was asleep. His talk about faith shifted to less about love and community, more about judgment, quick to condemn celebrities or neighbors for perceived moral failings while ignoring the growing mess in his own life. He'd scoff at revealing outfits on TV while his browser history, which I glimpsed once accidentally when he left it open, told a very different, very graphic story. The hypocrisy hung heavy in the air between us, thick and suffocating. The discovery wasn't one single lightning strike, more like a slow, dawning horror that finally exploded. It was a Tuesday, I think. He was in the shower, humming some worship song off key, and his phone buzzed repeatedly on the nightstand. Usually I wouldn't look, respecting the privacy he suddenly guarded so fiercely, but something primal screamed at me this time. The screen lit up with a preview, "Can't wait for tonight." Same motel? Followed by a string of heart and fire emojis from a name I didn't recognize. My blood ran cold. I felt dizzy, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. I tapped the screen, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. It wasn't just one message, it was dozens. Hundreds, maybe, stretching back months. Explicit photos exchanged, crude descriptions of acts I couldn't even comprehend him thinking about, let alone doing. There were multiple women, names I didn't know, plans made, lies coordinated. The dates often corresponded with his late nights working or church volunteer events. The motel mentioned was near his old office, the one he'd been fired from. It all clicked into place, a grotesque mosaic of deceit. When he came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, still humming, I was sitting on the bed, phone in my hand, silent tears streaming down my face. The look on his face when he saw what I was holding wasn't immediate remorse. It was panic. Then anger. He lunged for the phone, shouting about privacy, about misunderstanding. When I wouldn't give it back, the denials started, clumsy and weak. She's just a friend needing advice. It's not what it looks like. It was just texting. It didn't mean anything. Then came the blame shifting. It was my fault. I wasn't meeting his needs. I was too focused on work. I wasn't submitting enough like a good Christian wife should. He even tried to twist scripture, talking about forgiveness, about how I was being judgmental and pharisaical, how I needed to look at the log in my own eye before pointing out the speck in his. He didn't apologize. Not really. He cried. Yes, but they felt like tears of self-pity, not regret for the pain he'd inflicted. The religious man vanished completely, replaced by a cornered, lustful liar. Now the mask is completely off, and what's left is just pathetic. The religious man was a costume he wore to lure me in, and underneath is just a lazy, entitled man-child with no ambition beyond his next cheap thrill. He can barely hold down a job, blaming everyone but himself. Our finances are a disaster because of his impulsive spending and inability to plan beyond the next 5 minutes. He expects me to manage the household, pay the bills he racks up, and still treat him with respect after he shattered our marriage and my trust into a million pieces. He uses religious language now only as a weapon, to guilt me or manipulate me when he wants something. He'll talk about grace when he wants me to overlook his latest screw-up, but spews judgment when I try to hold him accountable. There's no genuine remorse, just annoyance that he got caught. He promised counseling, went to one session, complained the therapist was biased against him, and never went back. He bought me cheap flowers from the grocery store once, then asked to borrow $50 the very next day for gas money he couldn't account for. He's not just unfaithful. He's a loser, leeching off the life I'm trying desperately to keep afloat. Some days I just sit in my car in the grocery store parking lot and cry, mourning the man I thought I married, the future I thought we'd have. I feel so stupid, so incredibly foolish for falling for the act, for ignoring those tiny red flags because the pious performance was so convincing. Some people from our old church whisper behind their hands, implying I should forgive and forget, pray harder, be a better wife. My family, thank God, sees him for what he is now, and just wants me to be safe and happy, offering support without judgment. My sister lets me cry on her couch for hours. I started seeing a therapist on my own, someone secular, someone who doesn't try to patch up bullet wounds with Bible verses. I haven't decided everything yet. Leaving feels terrifyingly huge, tangled with finances and shared history and the ghost of the vows I took seriously. But staying feels like slowly poisoning myself, living with a constant reminder of the betrayal, living with someone I don't respect, let alone love. He's still here, sleeping in the spare room, sometimes trying half-hearted apologies that evaporate the moment I ask a hard question. But something in me has shifted. The blind adoration is gone, replaced by a cold clarity. I see the manipulation now, the performative piety, the deep well of selfishness he covers with religious platitudes. I'm starting to untangle my worth from his approval, from the godly wife image I tried so hard to uphold. It's a painful process, like pulling shards of glass from my skin one by one. I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I know it won't be defined by his lies anymore. I look in the mirror and see tired eyes, yes, but they're clear now. The religious mask he wore doesn't fool me anymore, and maybe sharing this helps someone else see past a similar mask before it's too late. He wasn't religious, he was just a cheat, hiding behind a cross. And a loser. Definitely a loser.